Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Elden Ring class overview. Today, we're just going to be going through the various classes of Elden Ring and just trying to give you a better feel and sense of what the classes are, what they're more focused and specialized towards, and maybe help give you an idea on what you would like to play or pick. Whether it be your first run or your second, or however many times you've beaten this game. So yeah, just go through these, and we will have the show status things up here to show their levels and their equipment they get. Now, obviously, I haven't personally played to a long extent, that is, all of these classes, but I have taken a look at all the classes and done some research on my own. I'm not going to be telling you what's the best class, to play, what does the most damage or whatever, what's the most optimized class, because honestly, I don't really care, and you shouldn't either. You should really just play what looks cool, what you like to play, what type of play style, matches up with whatever you like. Don't just follow some random guide off the internet. It's not as fun that way usually. So yeah, let's just jump into this, and give a little overview of the classes here. So first up, we got Vagabond. I think I I'm pretty sure you say it Vagabond or Vaga. I'm not 100% sure, but either way, this class is, as you can see from the equipment, the picture there, as well as the stats you start with, um, more focused towards, it's more focused towards melee combat with a sword and shield, as well as wearing heavy armor. So it's a very almost like knight, tanky little class you can pick here. And yeah, this, and obviously with classes, just because you start with certain stats allocated to certain places, doesn't mean that you can't take something like a warrior and turn them into like a faith build or an arcane build or something. But this just the starter classes, the stats they start with, as well as the equipment they start with, kind of set the path, and kind of are a good starting mold for like a certain play style that they're naturally predisposed to, basically. But obviously, if you wanted to play arcane, even though you start at 7, you can just pump basically all of your runes into upgraded arcane. So out of the way, let's go over Vagabond here. So yeah, basically very melee focused, tanky like knight class basically. Obviously, with this class you're gonna be using swords, axes, and stuff like that. Either one-handed or two-handed uh, stuff. And also have the option of a shield if you're going to do the one-handed combat. So sword and board or two-handed combat with melee, as well as wearing big, heavy armor, which yes is heavy and can sometimes make you do a fat roll or not be as fast. In general, some of the other classes is obviously, since it is heavier, it is more protecting. So you can take more of a beating as this class. If some enemies or a boss hits you a couple times, in this class you could be okay, but in another class, something like Bandit or Astrologer, you get hit a couple times, and you're probably done. So yeah, obviously, if you like that heavy, armor, very resistant based stuff and survivability and tankiness, yeah, it's great for that. You start at level 9, which is a pretty high level compared to a lot of the other classes, as you can see in the game. Only like one class starts at a higher level, and it ties with another one, but pretty high level to start at, which honestly doesn't really matter what level you start at, but it's nice to have like a higher level on stats right off the bat, I suppose. You start with 15 vigor, 10 mind, 11 endurance, 14 strength, 13 dexterity, um, 9 intelligence, 9 faith, and 7 arcane. So obviously much more of a focus on the physical attributes than the magic and faith based attributes. So, obviously, much more predisposed at the start to melee combat and all that. So, more of a focus towards, attributes that lend themselves to melee combat and survivability by, increasing stamina and HP, carry load, how much you can carry, how much damage you can do with, swords and everything, two-handed or one-handed, how much damage you can block, all that stuff. And obviously much less emphasis on stuff like intelligence, faith, and arcane. That's more predicated towards a magic-y, type build. Obviously, if you want that, you can definitely pump points into either of those categories. But obviously, more predisposed towards the latter. Okay, and what he starts with here is he starts with his one-handed. Although I think you can dual wield it. At least I wouldn't imagine why you couldn't. His little sword there. I can't remember the exact name of the sword, but it's like just kind of a basic one-handed, steel-looking sword that you get. A halberd, a shield, as well as basically every class in a game gets. God, I can't remember what this thing is called, but that little yellow like spell-looking thing there that all the classes have. All the classes get that. I can't remember 100% what it does or what it's called, but that's just because I haven't really paid attention to it that much. But yeah, obviously, again, with the items you're starting with, much more predicated towards melee, up close and personal combat, as well as tanking and doing damage with big weapons. The shield you get is very good. It's 100% physical damage block, basically. Even power attacks from bosses, although you will lose all of your stamina if you block it, it will protect you from even power attacks against boss. So very protecting and a good shield. Sword is very short. Sword, especially for when you have it, is very solid. Solid speed and damage overall. The halberd, I didn't use it that much personally in my playthrough with I'm doing right now with Vagabond. It's just this is the class I play personally. The halberd though, solid option, especially if you want a two-handed option. And yeah, pretty solid weapon for what it is. Next we got warrior here. You might think to yourself, how is this really any different? But as you can see, not just the attributes here, but the starting armor and weapons you get here, you can see a pretty big difference in the type of playstyle. So warrior starts at level 8 with 11 vigor, 12 mind, 11 endurance, 10 strength, 16 dexterity, 10 intelligence, 8 faith, and 9 arcane. He starts with 2, I believe they're like curved looking swords. Maybe I can't remember the exact name. He starts with a shield as well. So what the warrior is basically predicated towards is, yes, you don't wear as heavy armor, which obviously isn't as protecting, where you can move a little faster, and you have the option to dual wield, which is really cool. So more of a focus on fast movement and strikes with your weapons and mobility, as well as damage, and less about survivability through shields and heavy armor. Although you do show with a shield, and you definitely can use it if you want. Most people, I imagine, don't, though. But yeah, very cool class here. Obviously more predicated towards mobility, as well as dual wielding and doing damage fast, being mobile, not survivable. And yeah, cool little class here. Next we got the hero. Hero starts at level 7 with 14 vigor, 9 mind, 12 endurance, 16 strength, 9 dexterity, 7 intelligence, 8 faith, and 11 arcane. Starts with a war axe as well as a shield. So yeah, with the hero, big emphasis on strength and physical attacks. You like using big weapons either with the shield or dual wielded. You like using big, slow, but very damaging weapons, basically. Obviously, not as much of an emphasis on survivability through armor and shields, as you wear lighter armor and a lot of times don't use a shield. But a lot of emphasis on raw output of damage through big two-handed weapons. So very fun class to play if you're into that. Next we got Bandit here. Bandit starts at level 5 with 10 Vigor, 11 Mind, 10 Endurance, 9 Strength, 13 Dexterity, 9 Intelligence, 8 Faith, and 14 Arcane. As you can see here, start with your little dagger there, start with a shield, small little shield there, start with a bow, arrows, and yeah. Bandit obviously predicated towards more stealth gameplay, doing damage behind people's backs and sneaking up on them, being able to stealth people, shooting people from afar with bow and arrows, or crossbows, of course. But yeah, high emphasis on sneaking, either doing damage behind their back or just a high mobility, because obviously you don't have much survivability with low armor and a rather weak shield. So more emphasis on sneaking up on people to kill them, as well as mobility when fighting, or fighting from a range with your bow and arrow. So yeah, fairly cool little class there if you're into that. Next we got Astrologer. Astrologer starts at level 6 with Vigor 9, 15 Mind, 9 Endurance, 8 Strength, 12 Dexterity, 16 Intelligence, Faith of 7, and 9 Arcane. So obviously you saw your little casting wand there, as well as your little sword and shield. So obviously this class more of a focus on magical attacks and damage, but you still can use melee weapons and shields. But yeah, obviously with the wand and everything, much more of a focus on magic, as well as the attributes you start with, and obviously can upgrade further. So yeah, Astrologer, a good class if you want a good amount or a heavy emphasis of magic in your playthrough, with a lot of mind, intelligence, dexterity, faith and arcane. If that's what you're focusing on, more magic, but still want to be able to have the option to, melee if you want. Astrologer's not a terrible class to choose for that. Heavy emphasis on magic there, but can still do melee. Obviously, not very good survivability when up close with melee because of the light or almost non-existent armor from what you can see here. But obviously, lesser loads should have more mobility, so balances out a little, so you still should be fine. Next up we got Prophet. Prophet starts at level 7, has a Vigor of 10, has a Mind of 14, has Endurance of 8, Strength of 11, Dexterity of 10, Intelligence of 7, Faith of 16, and Arcane of 10. Starts with a spear, starts with a shield, as well as starts with this, I don't know how to describe it. Ooh. Well, let's go back here. There we go. No, this starts with the spear, shield, as well as this little chain here, or something that helps with their more faith applications. As you can see, that heavy emphasis on faith here, as well as heavy emphasis on arcane and magic. So yeah, what you do with this class, basically, obviously melee focus isn't really as big. You don't have much armor, but you have more mobility because you don't have as much weighing you down. Still have a decent influence in melee combat. You generally will use a melee weapon fairly often for most fights, especially boss fights, to get a few spear stabs in when you have the opening. So still has a decent founding in melee combat, but obviously with the faith aspect of it, it can, obviously the faith and arcane aspect of it, obviously more of an emphasis on magic as well. You're going to be using a lot of faith and magic to do damage from afar. You're going to be using a lot of spells, as well as faith-based, weapons, whether that be magic or not, or melee. So yeah, fairly unique and cool little play style. If you're interested in the Prophet. Samurai here, which is the class I think I'm going to play next. 9 starts at level 9 with 12 vigor, 11 mind, 13 endurance, strength of 12, 15 dexterity, 9 intelligence, 8 faith, and 8 arcane. Starts with 2 different arrow types, one of them regular, one incendiary. Starts with a katana, a shield, and a bow and arrow. So yeah, obviously kind of straightforward to what he's more predicated towards. Uh, Generally, you're built around fairly sturdy armor, so you have decent survivability while not sacrificing that much mobility in melee combat. Obviously, predicated around the katana. Very good weapons, katanas in this game. Not just the one you start with, but ones you possibly can find and use out in the world. Very good weapons, very powerful, very good class and build to build yourself around, and very strong and cool playstyle. Obviously, he's also got the shield if you want to use that, but a lot of people won't end up using a shield. You've also got the bow and arrow with the different types of arrow. Trying to push and emphasize more of a ranged, combat style, either killing weak foes with a ranged attack style and don't even have to bother with them, or on harder enemies doing damage from afar, and then once they get close, obviously switch to katana and do your main damage. So yeah, very cool class, very cool playstyle. Definitely won't go wrong with picking a samurai. Actually, a prisoner here who's pretty unique looking as well as playstyle. Obviously, because of the prisoner, iron mask here with, 2 slits here you can breathe and see through. Yeah, very unique looking and a cool little class here. So yeah, starts at level 9, 11 vigor, 12 mind, endurance of 11, strength of 11, dexterity of 14, intelligence of 14, faith of 6, and arcane of 9. So he starts with his little broadsword here that is it's got more of an emphasis on, I don't want to say poking, but thrusting at the enemy, and it does huge slashes most of the time. So that's most of the combat that you'll be doing with that. Starts with a shield there, as well as the little magic rune casting wand he has there to help cast spells. So yeah, basically kind of a hybrid class, but also more of an emphasis on melee combat. Obviously, you don't have much in the way of armor or resistance, so it's not like Samurai or Vagabond with heavy armor and a shield. You're mostly going to be relying on mobility, as you can't take that many hits with this class. So you're mostly going to be relying on mobility rather than survivability through hits. You're going to be doing a lot of melee work with your sword there, or shield as well, as if you choose to equip that. But yeah, you're going to be doing up close and personal damage a lot, trying to dodge around his attacks with that, with his sword and your high mobility, getting thrusters where you can, but also a very heavy emphasis on the little wand and magic casting there. Trying to get the magic casting out to start the battle. It's a good opener as you're walking up to the enemy, cast a lot of spells, so you can do a lot of damage before you even really have to start fighting the dude. And get in magic casting wherever you can during the fight as well. If you're, kind of at a standstill and you're far away from him, and you can get a few spells off. So yeah, somewhat of a hybrid class there, playstyle wise, which is nice. And yeah, overall very cool and unique looking class to pick up. Actually got Confessor here, which I believe starts out at the highest level of any class at level 10. He's got a vigor of 10, a mind of 13, an endurance of 10, strength of 12, dexterity of 12, intelligence of 9, faith of 14, and arcane of 9. Starts with your little, long sword there with a shield, as well as the same magic implement or chain there as the prophet starts with. As obviously the confessor, there is somewhat of an emphasis on faith, as it is your highest attribute starting out as this class, as well as the armor kind of reflects your confessor, like inquisitor kind of look you get there at the start. But yeah, with this class, from what you can tell with the things he starts with, as well as the attribute spread here, is a rather well balanced, kind of most pure, I don't want to say most pure, but the most hybrid class in the game. Very well balanced. Starts out at a high level with fairly even attributes. And how he's, predicated allocation of stats. And fairly hybrid class. It's got a good emphasis on mobility with armor. Armor's not incredibly unprotected. It's, somewhat sturdy, but nowhere near, of course, something like a Vagabond. So you have more mobility, but don't sacrifice all of your protection. Obviously, a pretty heavy emphasis on melee combat with shield and sword, or dual wielding, or whatever weapon you end up using down the road. So you'll be doing a lot of damage up close and personal with melee and dodging around doing that. But you also have a lot of spells and incantations and, runes and spells to cast throughout fights and leading up to a fight and starting out with one. So yeah, very hybrid play style with a little bit of magic and a little bit of melee thrown in. Very well balanced and hybrid, as well as the attributes you get at the start of the game, as well as what you get for armor and equipment wise. So yeah, if you want a hybrid class that can basically do anything and it's fairly balanced starting out, Confessor is a pretty good class. Last but not least here, we got the Wretch. Wretch starts at level 1, which is the lowest level. Starts with 10 in every single stat: vigor, mind, endurance, strength, dexterity, intelligence, faith, and arcane. Starts with only a club, as well as the thing everyone starts with. And the club's really not that good of a weapon. I guess it's good for level 1 and what you are, but overall not very good. So yeah, basically Wretch, obviously not predicated towards any type of play style or anything. Even stat attributes. Only one base club. You have no armor start at level 1. Wretch is really just a blank template class. You pick this if you want to, kind of allocate stats and, everything as you go, and just kind of don't want to be locked into some predisposed class at the start. You want to see where it takes you and allocate stats and build your own class as you go. You pick the Wretch, as it's, a very good and blank template to do whatever you want with. Or if you want to, just run around naked with a club and beat the game that way because you're incredibly good at this game, you pick the Wretch. So yeah, that was a brief overview of the classes of Elden Ring. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. We got at least a decently better feel for what you might want to play or the classes as a whole. So yeah, if you guys liked the video, subscribe, like, comment down below what class you like or you are currently playing, and see you guys in the next video here. Take it easy.